So I watched season 2 of The Boys on Amazon Prime, and I enjoyed it. I will say I didn't enjoy it as much as season 1 for two reasons. A, I just didn't think it was as good overall as season 1, and B, I didn't really enjoy the way that I watched it, and that being week to week. I feel like The Boys is a very slow show. Like it's kind of a slow burn, and you get engrossed in the world and in the show, and I found it to be just kind of jarring how like I would just get really engrossed in an episode, and then it would just end, and it would be like, oh, gotta watch it next week. And I just found that viewing experience to be unsatisfying. And I honestly feel like the show was made to be consumed in like a binging fashion, or at least have the option to consume it in a binging fashion. Like that's one of the cool things about a lot of these streaming shows is that they kind of feel like really long movies. And just I don't know, to be forced to watch it week to week, I just personally found it unsatisfying. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally get it. From a business perspective, releasing episodes week to week just makes sense. You're going to get a lot more longevity out of these shows. Like, I totally get it. Apparently, The Boys, like, as the episodes kept on going, the audience kept on going, or kept on growing. And that totally makes sense, right? After an episode comes out, everybody talks about it, and then people are like, "Oh, what's this boys show? I should probably check it out." And then they go and check it out. So, just in terms of just the business aspect of a streaming service and getting a show more popular, I totally get making it week to week. It's just me personally, as a viewer, as a consumer, I found that it detracted from the show overall. But then also just trying to, take all of that stuff out of my mindset and just looking at it as a season of television. I don't get me wrong, it's still good. Like I still very much enjoyed it. Like all the great elements of the show is still there. Homelander continues to be just the most fascinating character to watch on television. He's terrifying. Anthony Starr continues to just absolutely nail that role. Butcher continues to be a favorite of mine. I think Carl Urban is just awesome in that role. So like, and just the whole the world of The Boys continues to be fascinating. I just found the storytelling to be a bit just not paced very well. There were certain like plot lines that I found to not be all that interesting. And I found with this season of The Boys, I found that they really explored a lot in like the world of the superheroes, and they kept on expanding upon that, and they did like a lot of really interesting things with the superheroes. But I found that with the boys themselves, I don't know, I feel like they couldn't really come up with interesting things for them to do a lot of the time. Like a lot of the time they're just kind of like stuck in that like in beneath that, like I don't know, are they like beneath a convenience store or something where they're kind of hiding out. It felt like a lot of times they were just stuck in like their hideout and they weren't really able to do anything. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, like, I'm not, like, I found like a lot of the stuff with the boys, they were just, it was a bit meandering. Whereas when you look at like the superheroes, everything that's going on with Homelander and Stormfront and like, and like A-Train and Queen Maeve, all that stuff was like super interesting. But a lot of stuff with like the boys themselves was it just ended up being kind of meandering. And speaking of Stormfront, I thought she was a fantastic addition to the show. Like she's just a very, I don't want to spoil anything, but she's a very, very interesting character, and just the things that they do with her you don't exactly expect, or at least I didn't really expect. And I just think they go with very interesting places with that character. But I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm just gonna leave that at that. The show continues to just look incredible. One of the biggest compliments that I gave the first season was that it is a show with a television budget, although it's probably on the higher end of television budgets, but it's still on a television budget. However, the show utilizes its budget very intelligently. They know that they can't have like a big fight or big effects heavy sequence all the time in every episode, right? So I feel like they do a really good job of like pacing those sequences out so that when you do get one of those sequences, it's great and it looks really good. And like I never, like a lot of superhero television shows, whenever there's like a bunch of heavy effects sequences, it's like, yeah, it's a CWDC show, you know. Yeah, that's a Luke Cage action sequence where he's punching through walls, and a lot of times when it comes to like superhero live action television, it tends to not look very good. But The Boys is honestly an exception to that, to where like I never really question anything. I just always kind of take it in as if I were watching a really well produced like a Marvel film. Oh yeah, and how can I not mention that Gus Fring is in this as well? Giancarlo Esposito. He's awesome. He's just always awesome. I will say though, I feel like Gus Fring, he's playing the same character in a lot of shows and things right now. Because he wasn't Breaking Bad, obviously. I think he's currently in Better Call Saul. He's in The Mandalorian. He's in that Far Cry game, and now he's in this. And I feel like he kind of just plays the same character in a lot of these things, and I'm totally fine with that. Because he's amazing, and yeah, he's no less good in this show. His character is awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I think now I'm gonna get into some spoilery stuff. If you haven't seen the season, I still highly recommend it, especially now that all the episodes are out and you can like watch it as, you know, if you want to watch it in a binging manner, you can do that. I honestly think that is the best way to watch it. That's the thing, right? When I look back on the season, I like a lot of the stuff that they're doing. I like a lot of the stuff that this season did. I just found the experience watching it to be much less satisfying than it maybe could have been because of the week-to-week release schedule. But anyways, yeah, I'm about to get into spoilers, so leave if you have not seen The Boys Season 2. So yeah, I guess to just talk about some random spoilery stuff that I just think it was super interesting in this season. I found everything having to do with Homelander was just fascinating and terrifying to watch. His whole relationship with Becca and Ryan, that whole situation was just incredibly disturbing. And I thought it all came to a head in a really great way. Well, actually, I guess I'll get to that later. But yeah, so everything that had to do with that was fascinating. Stormfront was such an interesting character to watch, just because, you know, she appears at first, and I personally, like, I thought she was a really cool character. I thought it was like kind of weird that, because I was just always wondering, I'm like, what's her angle, right? Like, why would what's his face? Why would Edgar like pick this random person to join the team, especially when she seems to be bad mouthing Vought? And I feel like they never really answered that question. Like, that was always kind of weird to me. Like, why would he pick her when she's a bit of a loose cannon? And but I mean, I guess even if she's bad mouthing Vought, her popularity is still like helping them in a sense, so I guess maybe there's something to do with that. But yeah, I liked her at first, and then it happens when she kills Kamiko's brother, and you learn, oh, she's a racist. And then later on in the season, you learn, oh, she's like an actual Nazi. And you know, it's funny, like when she's like when she's like spewing her propaganda about the terrorist soups. I remember watching it, and that entire sequence where like she like radicalizes this guy to who shoots the guy at the gas station. When like that episode, I remember watching it and I was thinking like, I feel like this might be a bit on the nose, with what they're doing here. But then I remembered like the presidential debate when Donald Trump literally said to the Proud Boys, like, stand back and stand by. And I remembered that, and like that episode aired like the day after the first presidential debate, just for context for when you're watching this. And I just remember thinking like, no, this really isn't on the nose at all. This is just an accurate depiction of of the United States right now. But yeah, no, I thought she was a fascinating character. Honestly, I did not expect her to die. That was a like, yeah. So I guess now to if we to talk about like just that last bit with Stormfront, and she's choking out Becca, and it was like I remember when Becca stabs her in the eye, I literally I gasped, and and like I was not breathing for like that entire sequence until like Ryan like blasts her with his heat vision. But yeah, no, that's just entire sequence where like like she's choking out Becca, and Butcher's just like shooting her, or does he shoot her? I don't remember if he shoots her, but I know he's just like beating on her with the crowbar, and like she just doesn't care because obviously it probably doesn't hurt her at all. But yeah, that entire sequence, I just was not breathing. And yeah, it's just like one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, how are they gonna get out of this? Like what, and then when you learn that Becca died, it's like, oh my gosh, what is Butcher gonna do? And like for a second there, you think that Butcher is then gonna like try and kill Ryan. But then Homelander comes in and it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I did find it satisfying. Like I found it like, okay, actually no, wait, okay, so before that, when Stormfront is like when there's like the big confrontation, and like and Starlight and Kimiko are fighting Stormfront, and then like I feel like out of nowhere, Maeve, she just shows up and she's like, hey, I'm here to beat you up. I feel like she just like came out of nowhere. Like, did I miss when they like told her where they would be? Because yeah, like she just comes completely out of nowhere, unless maybe like Edgar was like, Maeve, I think something went wrong at the place where we sent all those agents to. Could you maybe check out and see what's happening? Maybe something like that happened, but I definitely did think it was a little weird and a little convenient that like Stormfront is getting the better of Starlight and Kimiko, and then Queen Maeve shows up and she's like, hey, what's up? Punch, punch. And then later on, when Homelander is like staring down Butcher, she just shows up. She's like, haha, I have video evidence that you are a bad person, so you will let them go. I thought it was a bit convenient. It didn't detract too much from those scenes, though. Those scenes were still awesome. But I did think that was a little bit convenient. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know why I like skipped to the end of the season, because there's still so much other stuff to talk about. Yeah, so I guess just to talk about the boys a bit, the boys themselves, I found a lot of their just storylines to be a bit meandering, like with like the whole Frenchie and Kimiko thing, where Frenchie was like, I want to help you, Kimiko, and Kimiko was like, no, leave me alone. I felt like that went on way too long. I mean, I did enjoy seeing the moment where like Kimiko was like, no, you are here for me, and I do appreciate you, Frenchie. I did find that satisfying, but like the build up to that was just kind of annoying. The whole thing where like where Huey was just like, no, you betrayed us, Butcher, I don't want to be with you, and then Butcher was like, and then I guess like at some point, uh, yeah, and then like at some point Huey is like, okay, you know what, fine, Butcher, we're cool now. And then I feel like then Butcher just kind of flips to then he's like, nah, Huey, I don't appreciate you. And then it kind of flips again to where like, okay, I'm Butcher and I appreciate you again, Huey. I just thought that that whole like flipperoo was just kind of annoying. And to be completely honest, while I enjoy the Mother's Milk character and like I really like that actor, I really like the character, they didn't really do much with him here either. I feel like for the most part he was just kind of there to like to like give different characters like a talking to when they needed it. And I mean like he does a good job of doing that, but they don't really do much with the character himself. So I think maybe my biggest problem with this season is that I just feel like a lot of I want them to do more with the boys themselves, right? The titular characters of the show. Like, don't get me wrong, I love everything that you're doing with the superheroed characters. Like all that stuff is super fascinating, but I wish that we could also get some more out of the boys themselves. Yeah, but again, I would say with the exception of like Butcher, because Butcher is still an incredibly fascinating character, and just the way that they explore his darkness in this season is super fascinating. And I feel like with him struggling with that, and then like by the end of the season, him deciding to not betray Becca and give up Ryan, I felt like that was actually kind of believable by the end of it because he has been sort of struggling with this. I don't even want to say throughout this entire season, throughout the first season and the second season even. So like with the exception of Butcher, I found everything going on with the boys themselves to be kind of lacking. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have too much else to say. I mean, I guess I could talk through like more just scenes that I liked, but I don't know if there's really much point in doing that. I kind of just like giving my overall thoughts on things. Yeah. I At the end of the day, looking back on it, I definitely did still really like this season. I think they did a lot of really cool things. I find this world that they're setting up to just be endlessly fascinating. Going into the next season, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, the like I totally just did not see that coming is it the congresswoman or the senator? I don't know. The politician lady. I did not expect her to be the one doing the blowing head up thing. And it's interesting. I've been like reading some people saying that maybe she's working with Vought because she did blow up that guy's head like when he realized that he had like or when she found out that he had like dirt against Vought. And I mean, yeah, her blowing up everybody's head at the like at that courtroom, that did at the end of the day help Vought. So I think there is a lot of credence to the theory that she's kind of like working with Stan Edgar. Like I think that's probably going to be the case. But yeah, I'm curious to see what goes on there. I like Huey wanting to go in a sort of a different direction, right? And sort of still fight Vought, but do it like on his own terms, where he feels like he'll be more useful, probably. Although he has been useful to the boys overall. I don't even know if it's necessarily because of that, but I like seeing him go in this other direction. I didn't really understand, like, at the end of the season when Butcher or when Mallory was like, hey, we have an opening for maybe the boys can be a team again, an official governmental team to keep the heroes in check. I didn't really understand, like, because, like, Butcher, he doesn't say anything. He just, like, walks away and, like, puts on his glasses. I'm like, is that a yes or a no? I'm honestly not clear on what's going on there. I would imagine that MM's wife is probably not going to want him to do that. He would not want him to do that. And you know, Frenchie and Kimiko, they're just gonna be together. You know, that's just gonna be a thing. But yeah, I guess overall, again, enjoyed this season. Excited to see where they go with season 3. Um, uh, like it's kind of you. I feel like at the end of the second season, you kind of know a lot of the stuff that's gonna happen. Like you know that there's gonna be stuff with Butcher and or with Homelander and his kid. You kind of know that they're gonna be on the run. After season two, you're not. I don't know. Like I'm not entirely clear on where exactly the show is gonna be headed. Right. Especially now that Stormfront is dead. It's gonna be really interesting to see where they go from here. But yeah, it's gonna be it. Let me know what you think about the show in the comments down below, and bye.